What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, and the Eagles are on a bye week this week. So let's try something new. Let's talk about the 31 other teams in the NFL and preview week 9. Instead of our sole focus being on the Eagles, we'll focus on every other team in the NFL. A lot of games to preview. This might be something even better because we get to talk a little bit about everything that's going on in the league at about the halfway point right through the season. So what I'm going to do, run through every single game, preview every single one, and talk about all these teams and what we've seen from them so far. I think it'd be something new and different to do as the Eagles rest up on a bye week, much needed. And we'll get back into it with a preview of that game, including an interview next week as they take on the Packers on Monday Night Football. But let's talk about week 9. Let's talk about some other teams. Let's start with the game of the week, which is usually the game of the year. Chiefs, Bills. Once again, I swear these teams might as well just group up and be in the same division because they are playing on a yearly basis. Now, in this game, the two teams kind of started out on very different trajectories. The eulogies were written about the Chiefs and that this could just be the rebuilding year as they kind of restructure what they want to do around Patrick Mahomes. Here we are again. They're right back in the division. They're right back in it in the AFC. In the past, the story and the tale that's been told as these two quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, have faced off is Josh Allen has owned the regular season. But then come the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes has owned everybody in the AFC. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, everyone within that conference. I think it could be a little bit different on Sunday. I really like the Chiefs in this game. Reason being, from what I saw from the Bills, and I kind of take this past week out, they were able to run the ball really effectively against the Panthers. It was not much of a game. It was not much of a contest at all, and they really just kind of sat on the ball for the second half. It was total domination of that team on the road, so we didn't really gain anything from watching them there aside from the fact that they absolutely took care of business when they needed to against that team. But the week before that, and a few weeks before that, on Monday Night Football against the Falcons, they had a lot of trouble holding up under pressure. They had a lot of trouble pushing the ball downfield and having receivers get open in that time. I think it was a total, breakdown around Josh Allen where he could just not – he really couldn't get you the big play. Like, there's just no receiver there that can hit the home run for you. I think it really showed up against the Falcons pass rush that's starting to come into their own. The Falcons have issues. We'll get into them. But at the same time, I think one of their strengths is they've invested in their defensive line, and that defensive line was getting home. So the combination of their pressure and not being able to hit that home run, that worries me as you're getting into an opponent that's, no offense to the Panthers, much better than the Panthers. On the opposite side of the ball, it feels like this offense is taking off for the Chiefs, where Rashee Rice has just opened it up, and Xavier Worthy, now that they're both back, it feels like this is the Chiefs offense that we expected. We thought this could be the case, and then Worthy was hurt immediately 3 plays into the season, and Rashee Rice, who was suspended for 6 games, could have done without the free Rashee Rice shirts. He is literally the most free that he can be for someone who caused the car crash that he did. But now he is back and playing very effectively. This offense seems to be coming into its own. They're kind of, to me, transcending where I have problems with the Bills if you're able to bottle James Cook, who's hitting that home run for you. So I think this could be a flip of the script, and you could see the Chiefs go into Buffalo and win in the regular season versus the playoff success they've had against Buffalo in the past. Now, we're working with the late games for you because that was the game of the week. That'll be your 425 special. Sunday Night Football is going to be Commanders, Seahawks. Anybody who's a runner knows you don't start by running a marathon. You kind of do maybe some 5Ks. You work in some miles here and there. You work up and maybe do a 10K. Then you do a half marathon. And if you're really, really lucky and you really want to push yourself, then you do the marathon. My warning to the Commanders fans, who were very mean to me over the offseason, when all I wanted to do was warn them about the possibility that a very old roster with a lot of short-term deals might not be able to run it back with the success they had a year ago, and the injuries may pile up if that were the case. Here we are. Here we are. So I'm not doing my victory lap in the form of a victory marathon, But I would warn Commanders fans that I am doing some 5Ks to get, I'm getting my sea legs under me. I'm stretching out. I'm getting very ready to run the victory lap of I told you so with how they constructed their roster this year. They're in a heap of trouble, both injury-wise. They're not also 3-5. The Monday night loss on the road in Kansas City, they just really couldn't put a lot together, and they haven't been able to all year. Even when they were deemed their most healthy in Week 1, they were playing a Giants team with Russell Wilson that just was able to put up no fight whatsoever. And on the opposite side of the ball, we still had a lot of questions there. Now, going into this Sunday night football game, they will at least be at home, but they will be without Terry McLaurin, who re-injured his quad. I think there's constantly, every single week, a lot of injury issues with this team. And when you're in and out, it becomes really hard to build the chemistry, build the camaraderie. It just feels like they are the car on the side of the road right now. It's like, well, that looks like a normal car. But the flashers are on. So what's wrong with it, right? And it's like, well, one of the wheels is off, right? Or, the check engine light's on. Like, there's always something like, well, that car on the side of the road, it doesn't look like it was involved in a car accident, but there's something wrong with it that it can't go. That's the Commanders, because they can't put it together because each week is a different roster. It's a new guy quarterback, it's new receivers in and out. Laramie Tunsil didn't play a week ago. They've had injuries on the defensive side as well. So there's been a lot going on with that team. I do like their chances in this game. If they were playing on the road in Seattle, I would give them next to no chance. I think it would be a lot like the Monday Night Football game we witnessed a few weeks ago where Seattle was playing. But I do think the Commanders, this might be a season saver. I think you'll get the best Commander shot that you've seen so far this year. They need it. They can't fall to 3-6. They can't lose to a conference opponent. They would then at that point be 3 games behind the Eagles. Still 2 chances to play the Eagles, but man, at that point, even if you lose 1 game to the Eagles and you don't have that tiebreaker because they lost to the Cowboys, they are in a whole heap of trouble. So I like their chances of winning this week because I think you're getting their best punch. I think you're getting a season-saving performance. Now, Monday Night Football is going to be Cardinals Cowboys. Talking about season savers, how about for both of these teams? If you guys are, I don't know if you guys are history buffs, but to talk the Norm Macdonald quote, Cardinals historically with Kyler Murray, a ton of success when he goes back to Texas. Since he's been a high schooler, every time he plays in the state of Texas, he balls out. This game will be at AT&T Stadium. He is back. He is healthy. He is playing. They're coming off of their bye week. He is good to go. That team has been really injury-riddled at the running back position. To me, they are a situational awareness nightmare. We talked ad nauseum, emphasis on nausea, when talking about their loss to the Titans and all the different things they did wrong, including, getting an interception and then fumbling it that would turn into a touchdown on the same play for the Titans, and letting the ball go before they got into the end zone, which turned into a touchback, so they didn't get the 7 points there. They are a situational awareness nightmare. But I think it's another team that you're probably going to get their best shot. Kyler Murray plays his best ball when he's in AT&T Stadium, and you're getting a defense that just can't stop anybody. And I think the Cowboys are kind of at a breaking point after that loss to the Broncos, where they had the win against the Commanders, and you started to feel good about this roster, and you thought they were putting some things together, and then they just got another 40-point performance put on them, and it just feels like every game the offense has to play pitch-perfect football in order for them to have a chance to win. How long mentally can you hold that up where you can't run any wrong routes, you can't have any turnovers, you can't give up any sacks, you can never be behind the sticks, you have to put up points every single drive because your defense can't hold for 4 quarters. I think that's not only just a physical mismatch for the Cowboys on the defensive side of the ball, I think mentally it's starting to wear on that offense, and I think that could really rear its ugly head on Monday Night Football in prime time. that could really be the end of it there, talking about season savers in that game. We might as well just stick with the last 4 o'clock game. There's 2 more here that we could talk about and just get through all of our primetime games. But we're talking about the Rams and the Saints. This one could be the quickest one that we have to go through. Tyler Shough is making his rookie debut. I would not be wanting to make my rookie debut against that Rams defensive line and Jared Verse. I think this is going to be a disaster for the Saints. If I was in a survivor pool and still had the Rams in it, they'd be an easy choice here. Rams coming off the bye week, so they're healthy as well. This just feels like a nightmare scenario for the Saints, and I'm a little worried that this one could get away and be an ugly one. I think if you're a red zone guy or girl and you're watching red zone, I don't think you're going to see this game a lot. I think this is going to be one that's everybody's focused on Chiefs-Bills. It's going to be nearing 7 o'clock in the East, and that game will already be halfway through the fourth quarter, and they're just going to be winding the time down, and everyone's going to be like, oh, yeah, that game is still on. I forgot about that. It's going to be like the Walking Dead later season. You're like, oh, yeah, they are still doing that show. That'll be the second half of the Rams and Saints. I don't expect much from there. Jaguars, Raiders, 2 teams that I think both fan bases expected a little more from. 2 things intrigue me in this game, and it's 2 players, 1 for each team. For the Jaguars, Travis Hunter, this is the first time where they're really going to dedicate him to being an offense-only wide receiver. He's going to get a lot of reps. They are, kind of weaning him off the cornerback, and it's really not working with him going both ways right now because you're just not getting enough impact on either side of the ball. That quote from Ron Swanson in Parks and Recreation when Leslie's running for office while trying to keep her job, he's like, you can't half-ass 2 things. You need to whole-ass 1 thing. That feels like the breaking point they're at with Travis Hunter, and I think you're going to see a lot more routes from him at wide receiver. And right now, given the struggles of Brian Thomas, he's probably the best receiving option that they have on that team. So I'm excited to see Travis Hunter, the wide receiver that we saw at Colorado, come back out, and I think this is the first opportunity for it. For the Raiders, this season has been an absolute disaster. They are a turnover machine. They are the factory that makes the Hershey Kisses. If you've ever been to Hershey's Chocolate World and you watch the conveyor belt of all the Hershey Kisses coming out, that's Geno Smith throwing interceptions this year. So when he gets his best weapon from a year ago back, Brock Bowers, who set the rookie record for tight end for receptions, if he's back and healthy, which we have not seen since week 1, he had been playing, but he'd been playing through a PCL injury. He missed the last 2 weeks before their bye week. This is your first chance of getting him back and healthy. Does that change anything for this offense? Might be the last time you see Jacoby Myers in a Raiders uniform, but I think the emphasis this week is how healthy is Brock Bowers? If he's back to his full strength, does that change this offense? Does that make you feel a little bit better about where they're at? To the 1 o'clock slot, this game, 49ers-Giants. As bad as I could feel for a division rival, I do feel a little bit bad for the Giants because I think the air is totally out of the balloon. They weren't a totally... they're just not a deep team. Like, there was definitely things to be excited about with this team. All of the it seems like the rookie class, they just absolutely hit on. They have a franchise quarterback. Abdul Carter, which we raved about in our draft process, has been awesome. And I think he'll continue to get better. And then Cam Scatabo, obviously, too, to hit on a mid-level pick and get a franchise running back in him. I hope he recovers the same way so that he returns to this form. That's my worry right now, is when you have an injury like that, you could lose a step. But it does seem like they really hit on that rookie class, but they're just not a deep team. They weren't 1 or 2 pieces away. They feel like a team that's like 3 or 4 pieces on either side of the ball. So now they're down Neighbors. Now they're down Scatabo. They weren't a deep team to start. I really feel like the air is kind of out of the balloon on this season where it was so high after that Thursday night football win against the Eagles. They beat the Chargers at home. They beat the Eagles at home. Those are 2 pretty quality teams to get a win against. Losing both of those guys after those wins, it to me feels a little bit like the reinforcements aren't coming over the hill. I'm a little bit worried about them. And maybe they rally together with all these injuries and stuff like that, but to me it kind of feels a little bit like a lost season where it could have been a fun season, right? Like, even if they finished 8-9, you would have had fun. Like you would have said, they were 0-3 and they really rallied. They should have beat the Broncos. But now it just kind of feels like we're building. We know we got some guys and we're going to build it for next year. 49ers need a win to keep pace. They're not a team that's especially healthy either. So we'll see how that one goes. This is another game that we could do very quickly. Chargers-Titans. I'm a little worried that the Titans have one win, and thank God they did over the Cardinals, because I really think we could be talking about them as one of the worst NFL teams of all time. We could be talking with them in the same language as the 0-16 Lions team. They've just been really, really bad. Chargers need to get themselves, momentum pushing. They seem to be getting back to their old form. That was another team that was dealing with a lot of injuries. Joe Alt is back on that offensive line, which has really helped them. So that's a team. They won on Thursday Night Football against the Vikings about a week and a half ago. That game, they completely dominated, and that more to me felt like the Vikings and the fact that they were using Carson Wentz as this sacrificial lamb who was so injured that he couldn't throw the ball. So I didn't really glean anything from the Chargers in that game, but they need to keep building off of that win, because the Chiefs are right there, and the Chiefs have a formidable opponent this week. So that Chargers need to just blow the doors off the Titans, which, let's be honest with ourselves, I think could be the case. Vikings and Lions. Now, this is a fascinating one. One, because the Lions are always a fascinating team to watch. The Eagles are going to see them in 2 weeks here. That offense has found itself again. After week one, really against the Packers, they have gone right back into who they are, and that's always just an exciting game to watch. But for the Vikings, after their medical malpractice situation, we could touch on that for 30 seconds, J.J. McCarthy returns. But I'm almost positive they just did the literal textbook definition of medical malpractice. So J.J. McCarthy injures himself in week 2. He has a high ankle sprain. But nobody can point to the point where he actually did injure himself. The report comes out that due to this injury, he will miss 2 to 4 weeks. After 2 to 4 weeks, Adam Schefter edits his report and says that it was actually a 4 to 6 week injury. During that time, whether it's the 2 to 4 weeks or the 4 to 6 weeks, Carson Wentz begins to start. He makes a few starts. He injures himself in the London game where he dislocates his shoulder and tears his labrum in the process. That information is not made public at that time and would not be for several weeks. He keeps playing. Up until this past Thursday, J.J. McCarthy is cleared to be the emergency quarterback. He returns to practice in a limited fashion, so he is cleared and healthy enough to play. But they go with Wentz to give McCarthy another week, and Wentz is clearly banged up, grimacing at every angle while he's on Thursday Night Football last week. Comes out this week that Wentz tore his labrum and dislocated his shoulder, as I mentioned. But again, when he did it, it was not made public, and was made public 3 weeks later. He now needs to have season-ending surgery, but at this point now, J.J. McCarthy is healthy, quote-unquote, enough to return. I feel like everything I just described, bullet point by bullet point, is the textbook definition of medical malpractice. So I think they just put a lot of pressure by accident on J.J. McCarthy, who had an injury that we did not know much about, and then parlayed that into a very serious injury that Carson Wentz had that they did not alert the public of, and allowed him to continue to play until he had to have season-ending surgery. Next game, Falcons-Patriots. I think this is another fascinating one as well, because the Falcons seem to be turning things around. And by turning things around, I mean like since they went to the Super Bowl. They beat the Bills at home on Monday Night Football. Great game, right? Like, they looked awesome. And then they lose and get blown out by the Dolphins. And the two losses that they didn't have Michael Penix, I will give them that. The two games that they've lost this year, the Panthers and the Dolphins, those two losses that they've gotten blown out by these teams that I don't even know how it quite happens. But they do get Michael Penix back this week. Everybody's been really high on the Patriots. So I'm wondering, is this a game where the Falcons are just this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team where we think that they're going to lose because they're playing a Patriots team that's been riding high, Drake Mays and MVP conversations, and then they lose to teams like the Dolphins and get blown out against the Panthers? Is that the type of team that they are going to be? Maybe. Could be. One thing to keep an eye on that, especially in fantasy purposes, Bijan Robinson, not a great week last week. Again, Kirk Cousins, backup quarterback. They could get nothing going on offense. Now facing a very stout Patriots running a defense attack that has not allowed a 100-yard rusher this year. A 100-yard rusher. I don't think they've allowed a 70-yard rusher this year. So that will be a fascinating game to see. I think the Falcons can sneak that one out. Colts Steelers. The Colts, man. At some point, we got to talk about them being for real. EPA per play, EPA offense, they're like top 5 all time. Not this year, all time. They're up there as one of the greatest offenses ever. And I know they just played the Titans last week, but it looked like one of those early season college football games where you're playing D1, like an FCS school, or if you're a college football fan through and through, you know, the SEC the week before rivalry week in week 12, they'll play an FCS opponent in week 11, and they kind of just do that to get one more game in before rivalry week and before the bowl and playoff season, and they just blow the doors off the Citadel, and you can tell because their offensive line is enormous, and they're playing an FCS school. That's what the Colts offensive line is looking like. The holes they were opening for Jonathan Taylor against the Titans. We saw some of the screen grabs on Twitter this week, but you could see it live too. They are obliterating people. They are boulders. They are, it's insane. Like I can't get over how good that they have been for Daniel Jones. Shane Steichen, I wish he would come home. Could you imagine this Eagles offense if Shane Steichen were still the offensive coordinator? My goodness. They're playing the Steelers team, which to me, the Steelers have always been great. They're always a respectable franchise. When do we hit the boiling point of going 9-8, which is what we're trending towards again? I think they need a full, not clean house, because I think Mike Tomlin's a good coach, and it's not a front office thing. I just think that there's a lot of guys they're dependent on that are in their 30s, especially on that defensive side of the ball, and you saw what happened in that Green Bay game. It just feels like there's a lot of guys who are at the tail end of being veterans and might have one last dance in them, and if everybody on your defense and your quarterback, if they're all on their one last dance, man, that just doesn't hold up very well in today's NFL. So Colts, Steelers, I can never rule the Steelers out, but I am not going against the Colts ever. They've just been so awesome. Broncos, Texans, this could be an interesting one. Up until last week, I really didn't know what the Broncos were. They were pulling off these miraculous comebacks, did it to both the Eagles and the Giants, and then they just absolutely dominated against the Cowboys. And to me, I'm once again in this situation with the Broncos where I think I'm going to be doing this from September to January, where we talk about this team and I'm like, I don't actually know what they are. I have no idea what they are, but they are now on a 4, and they played the Jets in between there, and they won 13-11, I think. And there was really nothing to show for, like, it was 13 what? Like they got a safety or whatever. So 13-9, I think it was. It was the ugliest game, even for London standards, that you've ever seen. So it's a 4-game win streak for the Broncos, and I know nothing about this team. It's insane. They're playing a Texans team that does look a little bit better. The offense finally came to life a week ago. They're at home once again this week. So is this the statement week for the Texans? It could be. And I don't know if I don't know, because I don't know what the Broncos are. They're either the best team on a 4-game win streak or the worst team on a 4-game win streak. I truly have no idea. All right, 2 games left. Stick with me here. Bears, Bengals. This just feels like one where Caleb Williams and the Bears need to figure this out. Bengals defense was cut to shreds by the Jets a week ago. Kudos to Justin Fields. He's been resurrected like the Undertaker meme, coming back to life. And that was a great win for the Jets, but at the same time, a little iffy on that Bengals defense. Now, the big key in this was Joe Flacco is an ageless wonder, but he gets it because he gets it to Jamar Chase 20 times a game. Not an exaggeration. 2 weeks ago on Thursday Night Football, he had 23 targets. Not a bad way to live. If that were me, I would do the same thing. You know what? If I'm going to keep my job, I'm just going to keep throwing it to the generational wide receiver who's going in the Hall of Fame and had a Triple Crown a year ago. There's worse ways to lose, right? But here's the key. Joe Flacco, AC joint sprain. We might not see him in this game. If not, how does the defense hold if they have to go back to the other backup quarterback who was struggling before Flacco? That's one to keep an eye on, and I would really like the Bears if Flacco can't go. If he does, this turns into a shootout. What did the Bears do? Did they stay disciplined enough to win in a shootout? Last game of the week. Not the most interesting one. But Panthers-Packers, the only thing that I would consider in this game is there's some sort of letdown factor after a huge win on Monday Night Football for the Packers, or Sunday Night Football. But they had a huge win in Pittsburgh where they had to come back. They were down in the first half, absolutely dominated in the second half. Jordan Love had 20 straight completions. It was the best half of football that they've played so far this season, which is really saying something because they absolutely dominated the Lions in week 1. They get the Panthers at home. We'll see how that goes, but I have a good feeling of how that goes. Bryce Young isn't expected to play. We're expected to see Andy Dalton, and I think he actually was popped up on the injury report as well. So Micah Parsons is coming after the third-string quarterback. Best of luck to that guy. At least the game check hits, you know? All right, so those are all of our games. Maybe I'll go ahead and put the picks out there if anybody wants to follow them. I know I didn't give a score and a winner for every single one, but I was following some storylines, and I think you could tell from the storylines who I expect to have success this week. This was a lot of fun. This was something new and different. I know mostly on this show we talk Eagles, but maybe we pivot this. Maybe we do Eagles one show and then just do an rest of the NFL preview and another show just to get all 32 teams involved and stay current with everything going on in the NFL right now. I appreciate all of the support, especially on YouTube as we go through these, and Spotify, everywhere as well. The people who have been following our TikTok and commenting, it does mean a lot. I do like to see people in the comments and kind of talk with them. It's a great way to connect with different fans. If you have any of your own predictions, feel free to drop them in the YouTube comments or find us on TikTok with everything I'm talking about there and comment with us there. Like I said, I love being able to meet new people and talk ball with them and go back and forth about whatever game it might be. Doesn't necessarily have to be these Eagles, could be any of the games, and I'm excited to do it. So thank you so much, and feel free to comment. And we'll be back next week. Like I said, we'll recap Week 9 and get into Eagles, Packers, Lambeau, Monday Night Football. Should be an exciting one. Can't wait. More interviews coming soon, and a special announcement for the podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon.